Whenever you start acknowledging your sin, it doesn't mean that you need to condemn yourself for the traumatized version of yourself that did everything it could to protect you. Now we understand that Christ is the one that's supposed to protect us and that we lean on him and we rely on him and that we can trust him and give him all our problems. But you have to understand that there's a version of you that was hurt so badly that mentally and physically, all you know is you have to protect yourself. There's a version of you that is so hurt when it sees and hears what God's love looks like, it panics because it's not used to that. And here's what I mean. There's a part of you that feels like you can't trust people. You can't trust other people. You can't trust anyone outside of yourself to get things done. You can't trust anyone outside of yourself with your heart. You can't trust things you can't see or control. But God shows you differently. God asks you to lean into him and not worry about the uncertainty. Because the one thing that is certain is that he has nothing but good planned for you. The one thing that is certain that what he has planned for you is so much better than what you have planned for yourself. He wants to do things that he can only do when you surrender to him. And spiritual warfare usually comes from us being disobedient, right? Satan can only do things when we come into agreement with it, right? Satan can whisper in my ear all he wants to, but it's not until I agree with what he's saying that he can start to mess with me. So what I'm saying is there are moments where you may pray for healing in the area. I'll say this for me. One of the things for me is, like I said, God, I struggle with patience. I have a hard time being patient. I'm being honest about that. Can you help me with that? Right? I know your timing is great timing, but there's a part of me that just, it tenses up, right? And can you just tell me when it's going to happen? Can you just tell me what's going to happen? The waiting, it's getting to me. And then what God showed me was this. You're struggling with being patient because the moment before the blessing, you're called to hope. You're called to hope. You're called to look forward, anticipating the good things. And that's really scary for someone that when they did hope and they did anticipate, they were let down. They were hurt. They were betrayed. They were embarrassed because they believed in that person. So for me, I realized that the limbo, the in between, my body was freaking out. My body's like, can we just know the end result? Like, yeah, you said it's a good thing, but I need to see the good thing. Can I see it? Can I be sure it's a good thing? I've done this thing where I've hoped before, and so you just never know what's truly causing your issue. So when Christ starts to like work with me and bring up some memories for me and help me see, make the connection between that trauma and how it impacts my relationship with him, then I was able to see things. But it took me letting go. Because initially when Christ would try to show me things, I would push back. I'd be like, hold up, that must be Satan. Why is that memory coming back? Don't dwell on the past. Don't dwell on the past. And God is not getting you to dwell on the past. God is wanting you to revisit it with him for a short moment, not so you can live there and stay there, become a pillar of salt, but because he wants to show you how it impacts your decisions today. He wants to dismantle the lie that has you thinking that you have to operate a certain way. So what I'm saying is there's a lot of trauma that impacts your decision. So don't look back at where you fall short and just condemn yourself and shame yourself for being defiant. Just say, I'm just good for nothing. I'll never get better because I have this particular issue. I can't let go of control. Because where that can come from is a place A version of you that felt a need to protect yourself. A version of you that before you really were able to lean into Christ and recognize Christ for who he is, you tried to protect yourself. And it seems good at the time, right? Right? I'm just trying to protect myself from things that could go wrong. But that self protection quickly turns into imprisonment, right? It keeps us from benefiting from God's love if we let it. And so, what I'm just calling you to do today is to not fall into shame that stops you from really leaning into God's love. Because once you shame yourself a good bit of times, you end up thinking that you can't go to God, right? If you let those, I made those bad decisions and got myself in this place and it messed me up mentally. Don't do all of that, because then you get to a place where it's hard to go to God. You think, just leave me here. Just leave me here. I'm not going to get any better. Don't discredit what God can do for you when you let Him. Don't let the enemy or your flesh tell you that you can't get better with God's help. It's fine to feel anger. It's good to be honest with Christ and be emotionally honest about your anger. But always keep that anger in perspective, right? Go to God about that anger so He can help you see the source of that anger, and so you can get the healing you need or correction you need to move out of that anger, right? But don't start to take that anger towards God in the sense of being like, don't start to truly believe that God is the root of your pain, right? It's fine if you're honest with God about, hey, God, I'm angry with you about this, right? Respectfully, of course, but that kind of honesty can help God show you why your anger is not really with Him and it's really with something else you're projecting onto Him. But what I'm saying is this: you don't need to let the enemy lie to you, or your flesh that does not want to die lie to you and tell you that you can't get better. Don't let them tell you that this is as good as it's going to get. I'm healed, but I'm not going to be more healed than this. You will be as healed as you lean on God for you to be. And it's all about your obedience. It's about what you are willing to take to God to be healed of. And the enemy would love nothing more, or your flesh would love nothing more, for you to truly stop walking with Christ because you think it can't get any better and God is the root of your issue. It's not true. So all I'm saying is be graceful with yourself. Love yourself enough to say, hey, I know, Sarah, there were parts of you that made some bad decisions and it didn't end up well. But God is going to turn it for its good. What you were doing was not the best decision, but you did it to protect yourself. And you can put that away now. You don't have to protect yourself anymore. God is going to do it. God is going to love you. God is going to take you where you need to go. But you can let go of the control. I hope that blesses you and have a blessed night.